In today's report, a concerned father breaks the silence to tell you the other side of the story to legacy media reports that recently made headlines with allegations that a transgender identifying college basketball player was being targeted by female competitors who were members of a Christian basketball team due to transphobia.
I'm proud of my story, and I want to make something very clear. Queer, trans, and non-binary people belong in sport, and there is zero space in this league for hate, violence, and bigotry.
It's not about transphobia or anything like that. We're not afraid. Except if they want a separate league to compete, they should have that right to be able to compete in a separate trans league. But I feel that the girls are extremely disheartened. They feel betrayed. They feel confused. Of course, they feel afraid.
I'm Drea Humphrey with Rebel News, and here's his story. A few weeks ago, some of you may have seen articles covering Harriet Mackenzie's story. Mackenzie is a Vancouver Island University student who plays on the school's women's basketball team called the Mariners. Mackenzie also happens to be a biological male who identifies as a woman and as equal to such when it comes to a physically demanding and competitive sport like basketball. The news article shared Mackenzie's allegations that a student playing against the Mariners from Columbia Bible College Bearcats team intentionally threw Mackenzie to the ground, and that the college's coach applauded the act and targeted Mackenzie by saying it wasn't fair that Mackenzie was playing against her girls.
Our 14-point lead was starting to grow, and unsurprisingly, CBC started to get even dirtier. In the unsporting foul, you can see here, I get two-hand chucked to the ground by number 13 without a play on the ball in sight. Then, head coach Taylor Claggett can be seen applauding in support. Sadly, situations like these are nothing new to me. Throughout my entire playing career, I've been outed and attacked by everyone from players to coaches to fans.
Now let me be clear. If Mackenzie was bullied, that is not okay, and it isn't the way to take a stand for women's rights, to have fairness and equality in sports. Everyone deserves to be safe. I genuinely feel for Mackenzie. I don't pretend that being in a situation where you truly want to be just like the girls that you play against but aren't is easy. For example, one thing the state choice media seemed to leave out of the story was the ways that Mackenzie towers over most, if not all, of the other players, both physically and in stats. While the news reports were quick to show you a small clip of Harriet from the neck up, they strangely appeared to avoid showing you Mackenzie very clearly in action on the court.
Cox on the screen, puts up a floater, goes off iron, rebound by Harriet Mackenzie, gets 2 points with room for one more! Here in Nanaimo. As Mackenzie knocks down the free throw and the Mariners have their first lead.
If they had, you would know that Mackenzie stands at a whopping 6'2", a fact Mackenzie doesn't hide. Well, a fact Mackenzie can't really hide. So instead, Mackenzie attributes the height to having tall parents and opposes backlash against those who don't think it's fair for females to have to battle Mackenzie on the courts because Mackenzie claims to have begun transitioning before puberty and at the very young age of around 5 years old. Again, that can't be easy. But much like you can't hide being 6'2" on the court to anyone with eyes, you also can't hide the biological advantages that still exist in biological males no matter when they started taking cross-sex hormones. And for basketball, that includes things like their skeletal structure, larger hands, muscle composition, upper body strength, cardiovascular and respiratory advantages. You get the point. Speaking of points, that's something Mackenzie has been doing a whole lot of in the women's leagues. For one example, last year, Mackenzie was the MVP of Nationals and was Pac West Player of the Year both for basketball and across all sports. was the CCAA All-Canadian and First Team Pac-West All-Star, and Mackenzie has also been coined the record breaker by Mount Royal Cougar Athletics for having breaking many impressive stats in a season. Total rebounds with impressive totals for offensive rebounds, rebounds per game, free throws, double doubles, you name it. Mackenzie has also had a good rookie season, according to Comox Valley Record, which lists out a long list of more impressive stats for women's basketball. Good for Mackenzie, but is it good and fair for the female competitors that have to compete against Mackenzie? As promised, Jay Park, a father of 4, including one who is a student at Columbia Bible College, whom has worked extremely hard over the years for her basketball successes, joins Rebel News now to tell his thoughts about just that.
Someone needs to stand up for girls' rights, and especially my daughter. And I believe that there are a lot of fathers and a lot of parents out there that this is not okay, and it's very unjust, and someone needs to stand up for what's right.
Well, I agree. We get the complaints about this, but again, not a lot of people, parents included, that come to stand out. Now, the narrative that most people heard was that Harriet Mackenzie was basically bullied, targeted. I think those were the words used, not just by a player, as we've shown in the clip here, but also by the coach, because the coach had said it's not fair for the girls to have to play against Mackenzie. What's your side of that story?
Well, basically, when girls have to play against biological men, eh, it's totally unfair because the physicality of the game is different. And I've been told by my daughter and the sentiment is the same with other players that it's like getting hit by a truck or running into a brick wall, essentially. And so, if we're isolating to this game, prior to the shoving incident, um, there have been many instances where the girls were hit, and basketball is a very physical game. And so, when you are continually abused with a biological male playing against these females, I mean, it comes to a point where enough is enough. It's not about transphobia or anything like that. We're not afraid. Except if they want a separate league to compete, they should have that right to be able to compete in a separate trans league. But I feel that the girls are extremely disheartened. They feel betrayed. They feel confused. Of course, they feel afraid of their safety. And I don't think that when you're entering into a competition, you should fear for your own safety. And I feel a mix of all these emotions. And of course, they feel threatened because the mainstream media is only reporting one side. There is basically bullying happening, cyberbullying, to this team, where they want to do is a fair match and they want to compete. I don't think it's fair for females and girls to play against biological males, and it's just common sense. And I don't know why that there is this acceptance of one's rights against others' rights. So, for example, I think the girls are being discriminated against because they're allowing trans athletes or biological males to compete. I mean, they have to share locker rooms. They have to bump and be very physical, and there's an obvious difference in physicality, and there's an obvious reason why there's two different distinct divisions of males and females in competitive sports. And there is an unfair advantage if you are a male competing against a female, especially in a physical sport. And that's been known for centuries. And why is this an issue here? So yes, everybody has rights, including trans athletes, but they don't have the right to take away opportunities and a fair competition for all the rest of the athletes. So yes, I'm standing up for CBC athletes, and especially my daughter who plays on the team. But also, I mean, there are many other girls playing in this league, and I don't think it's fair for them as well.
In a statement shared with Rebel News, Columbia Bible College denied the claims of bigotry and stated that the game was physical, with CBC players also on the receiving end of several rough plays. They say the CBC does not condone flagrant fouls and strives to encourage sportsmanship, and recognizes that regrettably in the heat of the moment emotions can rise during a hard contested game. Accusations that CBC's coaches directed its players to intentionally hurt an opponent are simply untrue. We would point out that the CBC player was not ejected from the game, there was no injury on the play, and the VIU player continued to play in the game. They added that Coach Taylor Claggett was speaking out for the safety of her players like any good coach would do, and that they support her. Rebel News also received a statement from Claggett, who described the video circulating with Mackenzie's story as attacking her character and slandering her name. This video was edited and scripted to show one side of the story that is highly inaccurate. Although this may be how this athlete feels, it is simply untrue to who I am, what I believe as a person, a coach, and a leader, writes Claggett. This video was triggered by the fact that I have concerns around the safety of female athletes. My intention has nothing to do with a specific athlete, but instead the safety of female athletes in their sports. Rebel News reached out to VIU and Mackenzie for further comment and did not receive a response. Do you believe that spaces for biological women must be protected to provide women with the physical and mental security they deserve? Then head to our special website called protectfemalespaces.com. There you can share more reports just like this and sign our petition demanding that our legislators stand up for women's rights and spaces.